Good. Good. Excited. Been chatting here with our friends. Should we wait a little bit more, Salma, and see if people are still joining?
Yes, let's just give it a few minutes, like
Okay,
3 minutes. Yeah,
gotcha.
yeah. How are you doing, James?
I'm doing good, doing good. I don't know what the weather's like where you're at, but it's a nice day here today. So
It's absolutely great where I'm at. It's winter in Bangalore.
nice. What's the temperature like in winter?
I think maybe 21
It's
Wow.
pretty good. That's
degree
nice.
Celsius. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm
right.
Canadian. That's actually, for me at least, that would be a reasonable, nice fall or spring day.
Mm. Yeah, spring. Yeah, exactly. In Austria as well. I think we have kind of like a similar weather
It's,
where you at, James, and here feels
well, it's
like. But your
minus,
winters, yeah.
I think it's -2 today.
Holy crap,
Yeah,
that's cold.
Oh,
it's pretty
crazy.
normal.
Okay.
All
All
right.
right, then,
I
James.
guess
I
we
will.
can get started
Mhm.
whenever.
Yeah. Do you want to share your screen tonight, or should I?
Please do share your screen because I've kind of bandwidth issues and I foresee a breakup. So
Sounds good. Okay.
thank you.
Problem. Okay. Well, Salman, did you want to do intros, or you want me to just go?
Yeah, we're going to have a demo right now of Weaver DAO, which is a decentralized real estate. We're gonna hear all about it from James. Yes.
Thanks very much, Salman. So, yeah, that's exactly it. We are a DAO that creates decentralized ownership models. We do focus on real estate, but it's actually not the only thing that we do. But our mission is really to bring ownership closer to everybody. We want to make it so that everybody can be an owner, regardless of what kind of asset they're looking to acquire. We want to make dreams achievable. So, just talking from like a market perspective. By the way, this is going to be some slides for a little bit, then we can do some AMAs. The problems that we saw in the market. So, obviously, a lot of the people here in the call probably are aware of how difficult real estate is to own and acquire in the market today. I believe it's something I read a metric, I think yesterday, where the average millennial is going to need to save for 20 years to be able to save up enough money to be able to get a down payment. And that's only if they work diligently. So, actually achieving access to a real estate market and getting out of renter's hell, where you're essentially paying somebody else's mortgage, is something that a lot of people want to be able to do in North America, especially, but they might not have the means to. If you do want to enter into a fractional ownership model in some kind of corporate structure, typically the investment space is pretty tightly controlled. There's a lot of restrictions as to who can actually participate. There's a lot of investment requirements. Some of them are accredited investors, which just honestly make the inequality just so much more palatable. And if you do own a fraction of a property, typically you give up control. So when I say give up control, I mean giving up the ability to say, hey, I want to have an influence in decision making. I want to be able to propose that we do something with this property. With a property that you own outright, well, you're making that with yourself. If you own it with your spouse, well, you're making that with you and your spouse. However, if you are investing into a REIT or into any other kind of collaborative management platform that's not a DAO, there's honestly very little say that you can have in your investment. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that that's a bad thing. It just means that you are losing the ability to have a say, which is something we think is important. So, what is our goal? So, our goal is to build a global real world asset tokenization platform that enables people to buy and sell collaboratively on an open market. Now, when we say real world assets, our platform is built in such a way that it can really be anything. But what we really are looking to do is look at assets that have low liquidity or have low amounts of people who can bid on an asset. Let's say, for example, a house or a Domino's pizza or a Rolex watch. There's a lot of different options here around what we actually can do with our platform, but really the big focus is on increasing liquidity and making it something that both a better system for buyers and sellers. We don't have any accredited investor requirements in our system, at least not today, and there are no mortgages, financing requirements, or anything else. You can come in and participate with just $1. And finally, one of our biggest things is we turn properties and assets into DAOs, which means that every asset is entirely managed collaboratively. There's nothing that Weaver DAO can actually do to change how a thread is actually handled. And that gets into how it works. So, as I mentioned, we really like real life assets. So, luxury goods, real estate corporations, there's a lot of value to those. Obviously, from a pure financial perspective, they're uncorrelated to the wider crypto market, but also they have actual functional utility attached to them, which means that we can do really interesting things with stuff like, for example, tokens and treasury and governance. Governance actually means something when you're talking about a corporation. You could open a new Domino's, or you can decide to open on Sundays. If you are Domino's today and you say we should be closed on Sundays, you can make a proposal for that. And if it passes, it actually will mean that the Domino's will be closed on Sundays. That's something that can physically happen in the real world, which can't really happen today. Our model takes the best of the fact that real life assets are real, tangible, and uses the best components of tokenized assets in the wider crypto market and Ethereum, and build what we call a thread. A thread is a sovereign DAO. When we say sovereign, it means that it can't be turned off. It's a DAO. It's there forever, and it's always going to be managing its property. It doesn't matter what the owners of that thread do, they are there. There's real ownership. They actually have the ability to directly affect the property or any asset that's underneath it, and they are going to be able to receive in kind, directly or indirectly, proceeds of things like, for example, rent or sales or any other kind of distributions. So as a holder of a thread token, which is its own ERC20 token, you will actually have agency and control over whatever you invest into. And then finally, we've spent a lot of time working on this, and we can definitely dive into deeper details. But these entities we call threads, these third-party sub-DAOs, have their own legal identity and have a lot of protections that we put in place to ensure that regardless of what happens to Weaver or what happens to the wider legal system in the United States, if securities laws change, whatever, threads are safe and your money is safe. There's very few things that can happen to it that we can actually influence. We're a completely decentralized system. There's no centralized components in our platform. We make money. Good question. So our treasury model is actually pretty simple, and it's pretty transparent. We don't charge transaction fees or any other kind of operating costs because, again, threads are sovereign entities. What we do charge is a 6% of every thread that's tokenized in its token supply. So let's say that a single property raises or a thread raises 100 tokens. Weaver DAO will get 6 of those tokens, and that will go directly to its treasury. What that means is that the actual Weaver DAO itself, its token, is both a governance token, but you can also imagine it functioning in some ways as an ETF, the wider tokenized real estate ecosystem. 6% of every property tokenized and every asset tokenized will add up to a lot. And the Weaver DAO token supply is capped at 1 billion. So that number will most likely only ever go up. So you might say, well, cool, Xerix, that's really interesting, but what does that have anything to do with Bankless? Well, good question, because we're actually made by Bankless. This idea was created in conjunction with me talking to some Bankless people while I joined Bankless as a very, very early person coming to DAOs. And we realized that our missions were aligned. There are no banks in our system, and we are providing financial services and support to millions and millions of people, if not billions, that today don't have access to financial tools and systems that rich people can take advantage of. And that was a mission that a lot of people that we've been working with have taken to heart and have built out this amazing DAO together. And as you can see, a lot of those folks, you might recognize some of the names here. These are the people who have been actually helping us build this. And one of them is actually going to be talking a little bit about partnerships next. Right, Sanat?
That's absolutely correct. Thank you, James. Yeah, diving a little bit deeper into the concept of DAOs and WeaverDAO itself. So, what essentially is WeaverDAO? And if you have to ask yourself what it is, the answer is WeaverDAO is a community of members that are essentially in charge of Weaver's governance, maintenance, and operations. Any member who's basically invited to join the community, because remember, we are a private investment club, so members have to be vouched for before they can access the organization. They can participate in WeaverDAO and be rewarded for their contributions in Weave. WeaverDAO therefore makes Weaver a self-sufficient organization that is entirely decentralized. And by being a decentralized organization, WeaverDAO sort of allows individuals from all over the world to join and participate and build on top of the organization. There's literally no geographical or economic entrance barriers to WeaverDAO and our potential growth, of course. And of course, all Bankless DAO members who decide to join WeaverDAO can participate on the platform. And just to highlight, we have amazing projects within Bankless DAO that are, taking some of the concepts that we have in real life and already functioning and making it decentralized and open it up to community and members. I'm thinking of Bankless Card, who's one of the, if they continue, or like if Bankless Card continues how it goes right now, it may become a decentralized Coinbase at some point. So it may become one of the biggest decentralized exchanges on the world. I tend to think of WeaverDAO and the protocol and the capacity, the capability of becoming one of the largest asset managers. And just to give you an insight of the current largest asset manager is Vanguard with, let me get the zeros right, I think it's $8 trillion assets under management, followed by BlackRock with almost $8 trillion as well. And on third stage is Fidelity with almost 4. And so this is an insane market that we can allow to make decentralized owned just by community members on chain with blockchain technology and Web3. And talking about the partnership in specific, what we had in mind and was a proposal that will be upcoming that basically aims to introduce the Weaver protocol and WeaverDAO to the Bankless community. And I know there has been a first draft that was out there just to get the sentiment and see how are people feeling about this. And we got the feedback and we got back to the team and really thought about how we want to approach with kind of the second draft and the second version to check the sentiment again and see if actually Weaver is open for the Bankless DAO community is open for that. And the goal here is to sort of allow the Bankless DAO community access prior to Weaver and WeaverDAO's public launch. And specifically, we are targeting Bankless DAO members that are verified or that can be verified through the access to the Weaver protocol. And these verified Bankless DAO members are invited to join WeaverDAO, and hopefully, if I don't want to say hopefully, but the Bankless DAO treasury may benefit and receive, a certain amount of Weave tokens based on the contribution of those members, because we want to reward communities and DAOs that are supporting Weaver, and actually our protocol allows us to do this as well as our organization. And so we want to make Bankless DAO one of the first ones because we are so aligned, as James has said.
Awesome. Thanks, Sined. I think this could be a good time to pause for questions, but I was also going to actually showcase a little bit of the DApp and the website and the content that we currently have today. But if anybody has any questions right now, we can pause for that. Nope. Okay, cool. Well, as I said, this exists. Weaver.org is a website. So yeah, we are a decentralized real estate club. But as I mentioned, we are actually capable of tokenizing absolutely anything on our platform. So the area that I'm actually really excited to share about is governance, just to kind of show just how aligned we are. So first, when I click it, you can see that I'm authenticated here. We're on Arbitrum. You can actually see that we have proposals. So we're not using Snapshot. We actually have our own on-chain proposal making process. There's a reason for that. It's because of the fact that every action that's taken by your DAO needs to be voted upon. There is no multi-sigs in the system. If we want to upgrade our smart contracts, it actually requires a proposal to be passed, which means that there is no way that myself or anybody on the team can sneak through and make a dramatic change to the platform without the general consent of token holders. We can even do things like, for example, minting tokens and issuing them to specific individuals by proposal. This obviously unlocks a lot of potential within our platform, and it's something we're really excited about. And this is the thing that what we like to call a sovereign DAO in our model. So this is a really, really, really exciting place for us. However, one thing that's also really important to showcase is from a governance and corporate governance perspective, we have a concept of resolutions. So when a very critical proposal passes, that actually changes or affects how the DAO is operating from a legal perspective, this is where they end up. So resolutions.weaver.org. And to that point, we've created things like, for example, the omnibus, which is actually legally binding, that attaches a Marshall Islands LLC to the wider Weaver DAO entity, and defines how its organizational structure is built, along with adoption of certain technologies and tools from its parent corporation. So we've done a lot of the legwork. You might see some projects that have been working out there that are just trying to get to market as quickly as possible. We're being safe. We're complying with every rule and regulation we can, and making sure that our system is robust and resilient from any attack. And that includes from ourselves.
Yeah. Thank you, James. I would say we are kind of done with our part and with the introduction and walkthrough through Weaver, the protocol, but also the DAO. And we could hopefully showcase what we are capable of, where we origin from, and how aligned we are as well. And so we would open up the floor for any comments, questions, or feedback.
I see Ernest typing.
Thank you for streaming, Ernest. Appreciate it. Yeah. Maybe just talk a little bit about, you know, our resilience. I think is something that we had to prove in the past couple of weeks, with the current market and with the way things are going. Every other business or startup would basically fall apart, and the idea would, in a Web2 environment, this will be a dead project probably. But because we operate in a decentralized environment and because we have tokens that are on a free market that can be picked up by anybody, this protocol is basically immortal, I think is that word. So as long as there are tokens out there, there's something there are proposals that can be passed on the Weaver protocol, and that there is an opportunity for a DAO to operate in order to govern this Weaver protocol and everything that's on it. And so I think what we've built here is what's fascinating part about crypto is, I think, the technology, and with DAOs. I think we are really, there are going to be things in 5 years from now that are going to be built, and we had absolutely no idea that it was possible. And so for me, and I think for the rest of our team at Weaver, it was thinking about, what can you create that allows individuals to go above and beyond and kind of push beyond the borders. And it's, I think, this protocol, because you can basically, if you can tokenize everything, and you can build this layer 0 of real world assets in the world, like on chain, governing on chain, co-owning, being decentralized, who knows what it's going to be there in 5 years. And so of course everyone is convinced of its project and the opportunities. That being said, we spend so much time trying to ensure that the systems we set in place are quote unquote secure. I'm always being cautious and careful with using this word because who knows what. And the people we've been working with are probably one of the best people you can find around in the whole ecosystem. And one of them just joined, who's Gruet. Hey, Gruet, who's been working and ideating and executing on product development, as well as basically literally everything, also from I think from the operation side as well. And when it comes to legal compliance, a lot of because a lot of things in Web3 are currently like in a quote unquote gray area. You got to ensure that you are as compliant as possible, so you can not just protect your investors and quote unquote shareholders, but also ensure that in case any regulation is being made, you're on the safe side. And I think we've literally done the best of our capacity in order to ensure that if there's going to be even the strictest regulation, Weaver is going to exist. So yeah, this is a little bit more on that.
I'd love to hear some questions. Maybe Ernest, you said that's awesome, but like I'm imagining from your perspective, you've been around for a while. I've recognized your name. I may not be in Bankless all the time, but obviously I think I remember reading a little bit of that you've been interested in real estate in the past. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I help contribute to the real estate channel in Cross Collab. I follow like Retoken DAO and a couple other real estate based DAOs. Um, I know in the KIF DAO, the van life DAO that I'm a part of, we're looking at, how to potentially, buy property for our members, and how that will be managed. Um, so yeah, it's,
Got it.
what I, yeah, I think it's super interesting. It makes a lot of like sense, and it removes a lot of third parties. And cooperative ownership is, with blockchain technology, is super scalable.
Yeah, exactly.
Tricky with all the laws and stuff. I'm kind of curious, like what happens if a government essentially commandeers, one of your properties. Like what happens
They
then?
they can't. They just don't know what it is.
No, I
We
mean
don't
they
own properties in our platform.
yeah, no, I mean they can commandeer your properties. So if you got property that's, tokenized and a DAO, the
Yeah.
government can come in there,
Yeah, is
seize
your
it.
question if they randomly seize it for whatever reason, like if
Yeah, it could be legal
even if it's a
reason, it could
tax,
be a
yeah,
non-legal reason. But when they
Yeah,
seize
it could
it,
be like force majeure or something.
yeah, how does that change how you do things? Because they could do it legally or they could do it illegally.
Yeah.
I mean, if they do it illegally, we have a much bigger problem than I think. Right? I think we have bigger problems to face if this is going to happen. But
It sounds like we're in a war situation.
yeah,
In which case, I don't know if blockchain is going to solve war.
No, actually,
Like,
the pipelines in the United States seize property from people all the time, and in
well, that's
particularly
takings,
indigenous
right?
land, and they do it
That,
quite
that
legally, you know, and
yeah, but they have to
illegally.
compensate for that, even though so a takings situation. So I guess I would say I would respond by saying, first of all, this is ownership. So you're taking on both the assets, but also any associated liabilities, including the possibility that your property would be taken from the by the government through the takings clause in the U.S. at least. It can be outright seized in other places. Um, that could happen if you owned it by yourself or if you owned it with multiple people. So I'm not sure we don't eliminate that risk. But in some ways, you can diversify away from that risk by owning multiple similar properties in different places, right? The likelihood of getting hit by takings clause across all of those properties is at least reduced. So that would be one response to it.
Who doesn't want to have a real estate investment portfolio in this caliber? So yeah, good point, Groot. But does this answer your question?
If that's your biggest concern, I think you're going to probably make a lot of money. So I don't see that those things are super likely to happen on a regular basis.
Not financial advice. I'm not an attorney either, but just want to throw that out there.
Yeah, how can we just say we're not anything? Can I just say I'm not anything?
Yeah, you're just a
You're a
bear.
freelancer.
You're a bear
Just
with
a guy. I'm just a bear with a hat on.
A relentless DAO contributor. We have a lot of them here in Bankless. So.
But I thought, Ernest, your question, and I've got to go, but was related more to what if the governor, whoever's in charge of actually physically taking care of the property itself, does something to cause it to be seized, and we at least have some safeguards with respect to that to try to mitigate that possibility, and then there's also some ability to claw back, some of the value associated with that through the bonding mechanism. It kind of depends on the situation, but there's at least the incentives so that the governor, if they were to do something that would cause that, would hopefully be in a situation where they're worse off for having done so. So their incentives are not to engage in those kinds of behaviors.
Yeah. I think we can also say that Weaver, the protocol, and sort of the DAO can fix the problems that are given in our current legal system. That being said, maybe it pushes towards innovating some of that kind of legal requirements or rules, by pushing the borders, quote unquote. So, yeah.
Yeah, and also I think, Ernest, in terms of another kind of, I know you're still muted, but in terms of kind of what I think like the subtweet of your message is like, how are you doing this? I think the simple answer is I like to use this analogy when I talk to people where they own a house but they have a mortgage and they're complaining about their mortgage rates, and I say, you don't own your house, the bank does. That's actually the mechanism that we're using in our system. So we don't actually own any of the properties. We take security interests in them via liens.
Yep,
So
we allow.
Same thing about government, incidentally. You don't own your house, the government does. They just lease it for you for a property tax.
I like it.
Yeah, I think it we go more towards peer-to-peer with this because we actually bring the people together and allowing them to engage and come up with proposals and decisions and vote on stuff. So I think Web3 is truly, there is no Web3 without peer-to-peer systems or protocols that allow for peer-to-peer. What's the English word? I would say engagement or a collaboration or a workspace, and so I think this brings it a little bit closer. Of course, there are always problems to be solved again, but we want to get closer to kind of the world that we envision. But yeah, any other questions or anything? I think we have kind of exposed ourselves right now. So if you have any question, James is part of the community as well as Gruad, but you will probably see me more around meetings and stuff within the BizDev project as well as Bankless Labs and of course the grants committee. You can always hit me with questions. I'm actually very happy to represent the protocol in James and Gruad's absence. And yeah. Other than that, we would appreciate, of course, if you familiarize yourself with the content, if you read a little bit more about us. Of course, follow us on Twitter. It's always the best. And again, there will be a second proposal, a follow-up coming. We encourage, if you're supportive, show it on the forums. We appreciate that. Like it's a bear market. We are building. It's hard. It's a pain. Sorry in the ass. When you're building and it's like you're just getting, it's hard. No one said it will be easy, but every single support that one gets is kind of important, and so we would appreciate some of that support in the forum once the proposal is up. So, but I'll stop.
What we want to do is we want to make sure that the bankless DAO treasury is rich and diversified and not full of Ethereum and USDC, but full of something that actually correlates to a stable long-term market and appreciates in value by the virtue of its members.
Well said. But that's basically the case.
Yeah. Yeah, we'd big bankless fans, as you can imagine. So, anyways, Senate, anything else for closing? It sounds like we're in a good spot.
Yeah, no, I would thank everyone for the attendance. I want to thank you, James, for helping and co-presenting. This was hella fun. We should do this more often.
Yeah, we should. I'm into it.
Yeah, let's go. And
give me slightly more notice for the presentation next time.
I apologize. It's been a mess. but yeah, I know. Thanks everyone.
All right. Cheers out.
Cheers. Bye-bye.